DreAllDay.com.
Ball, DreAllDay.com, balloverseas.com. The topic we're addressing here is basketball agents. Some players have asked me, well, Dre, do I even need to have an agent for basketball? Because maybe you heard a story of some athlete, maybe they negotiated their own contract or did a deal on their own, or maybe they just hired a lawyer to negotiate, maybe somebody in the NBA. I know Ray Allen famously did this one time many years back when he was getting max contracts in the NBA. He fired his agent, he just hired a lawyer to look over paperwork and didn't need an agent because he knew he was getting a max contract anyway. And maybe you've heard stories. People, even like myself, I've even said, there were times I negotiated deals playing overseas where I didn't even have an agent. Not because I didn't want an agent, but because I just couldn't find one, but I was still able to make a deal happen anyway. So you may be wondering, why do I even need an agent? Do I need to find an agent? Do I really need to put time into this? Because maybe you've been trying to reach out to agents and get an agent to represent you, but you haven't been so lucky. Maybe you haven't gotten any agents to take a bite on you or take a chance on you. Maybe you have an agent, but your agent hasn't done anything for you, and you're wondering, hey, do I even need an agent? Does it even matter? The answer to that question is yes, it does matter. And do you need an agent? My educated opinion is yes. You should strongly desire an agent. I'm not gonna say you need one because, as I just said, I got in deals before without working with an agent. So you don't need an agent to get a deal, but I strongly desired an agent. Even when I didn't have one, I still wanted to have one. And I'm gonna tell you a basic reason why, and then I'm gonna go into a little explanation. The basic reason why you want an agent, and I'll give you a metaphor from the business world, because I'm a full-time entrepreneur now, and my business coach said to me, listen, if you don't have an assistant, if you don't have an executive assistant, that means somebody who can handle a lot of the small things and keep things organized for you as the entrepreneur, as the CEO. If you don't have an assistant, then you are an assistant. If you don't have someone taking care of that thing for you, then you're the person taking care of it. If you, for example, everybody eats every single day, right? So if you don't have a chef, guess who's the chef? All right, you're the chef. If you don't have a house cleaner to clean your house, who's the house cleaner? You, or somebody who lives in that house has to clean the house, or maybe you just never clean your house. But if you don't have a person doing that job, then you are the person doing that job. You have that role. So if you don't have an agent, that means you are an agent. Now here's the problem with being an agent. Or do you have experience being an agent? Or do you have certification on being an agent? Do you have any idea what an agent does? Do you have any other skills that you want your agent to have? Because if the answer is no, and are you a full-time agent? Is that what you want to do with all your time? If the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. For like the business coach said to me, if you're a CEO, you don't want to be doing executive assistant work. All right, you need to be doing CEO work. If you're doing executive assistant work and you're doing CEO work, that means you're not putting all your time into being a CEO, which means your business is not doing as well as it could be because it's impossible for it to, because you're doing work that you shouldn't even be doing. You can't even be a full-time CEO. How you going to get full-time results? Makes no sense. So it's the same thing with you athletes out there. Any sport, actually, you can use what I'm talking about here. If you don't have an agent, you have to be an agent. But the thing is, you're not an agent. Now, you don't have agent certification, you don't have agent skills, and I think you're a basketball player. So why would a basketball player want to be doing agent work? And let me explain to you what agent work means. You can look at an agent in a similar way that a CEO will look at an assistant. Not to say that your agent is your assistant, because they're not, but the agent does things that you don't need to be doing so that you can focus on doing what you do best. All right, that's the metaphor I'm drawing between an assistant and an agent. But again, an agent is not an assistant, and an agent is not your employee. All right, they're not on your payroll. But again, I'm just drawing that metaphor. What does an agent do that you can't do for yourself? First of all, the agent knows the landscape of the overseas basketball world in a way that you don't know it. Now, even if your agent is some brand new person, I worked with several agents. I remember my first agent was brand new to the agent game. It was his first year being an agent. But I guess luckily enough or happily enough for me, he was still able to get me a deal. I worked with another agent who was well known all through the country that he was working in. I was in Germany at the time, and he knew everybody everywhere in Germany. He knew damn near every team in Germany, he knew them. And he was a well-connected guy. I also worked with an agent who was well-connected all over the world. This dude had like 150 clients, and if you look down his client roster list, all of them had deals. Everybody in his agency had deals. And I stayed with this agent for about 2-3 seasons, and I negotiated a deal on my own without him, and he never got me a deal, even though he had all these connections, this agent. And he had like 6 agents working under him, so he was the main dude, and he had like 6 other agents working under him. He wasn't able to do anything for me. But I'm not saying this will be the result for you. But those agents, what are they doing? They know the landscape of the game. They know who's who in every country. They know how much money a job is going to get you based on the level and based on the league. They know which teams to stay away from because those teams, maybe they don't offer good accommodations. Maybe they have a reputation for not paying players or not paying on time. Maybe they know that this coach is not a good coach to have to be playing for. They know what their players are capable of, and they know what jobs and what leagues would make sense for certain players. So I had agents who were looking my game film, and they would say, all right, based on your game film, I think you would be good in like the third league in France, or maybe if you got started in Spain, or if you could get on in Mexico, you could kind of build your way up from there. I'm not saying that's exactly what they said, but just as examples, an agent can look at your film, and for all y'all to remember, I've talked about this before, but overseas is not one big league with all these teams together. All right, just like the NBA is the United States League, France, Spain, Germany, Italy, Australia, UK. These are all countries. All right, they're their own countries, just like the USA is a country. And a lot of Americans seem to not really. I think you understand it if you thought about it, but when they talk about overseas, a lot of people don't seem to get that. And these countries do not intermingle with their leagues except in a couple of cases, like the Euro League, like I talked about, Euro Cup, like I talked about in previous videos. So understand something. For you to decide, all right, where am I going to start my career? Like, if you want to try to get a deal on your own, what country do you want to play in? What league do you want to play in that country? Which teams are you going to target, and why? You usually will have no rhyme or reason for how you're actually going to do that. Why? And you shouldn't have any rhyme or reason why, because you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're a basketball player. Your job is to play. That means your job is to tell me where the gym is at, tell me what time I got to be there, you show up with your sneakers, and you do what you do out there on that court. That is what you do. All right, that's what you get paid for. All right, you don't get paid for anything else. So you need to hire someone, your agent, who they're going to do everything else. What is everything else? Looking at your game film and assessing what type of player you are. Letting you know what kind of job you can expect to get. Letting you know what level you should be expecting to play at, what league you'll be playing in, and how much money you should be expecting to make. And if there's ever any problem with the league, with the team, with the coach, with your money, with the management, with your housing, with your transportation, with something going on back home with your family, and you need to do something that maybe the team doesn't understand, your agent handles all of those things. Do you understand this? The same way that, looking at NBA. LeBron James has an agent. Now, we can agree that LeBron James is going to get a max contract. James Harden, Giannis, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. These guys are going to get max contracts whenever their contracts are up every single time. Kawhi Leonard, why do they have agents? Why do these guys have agents? I don't know if Kawhi has an agent, but everybody else, I think he does. But everyone else, you get the point that I'm making. Why do they have agents since the NBA has a salary cap? There's a max amount of money you can make if you're one of those players. They know exactly how much they're going to make. They know they're getting the max every time. Why do they have an agent? Now, with NBA players, of course, you have endorsements and marketing deals and stuff, and the agent makes a lot higher percentage of the money when they get you contracts outside of basketball. They only make 2, 3, 4% when they're negotiating your NBA contract. But when it comes to your marketing deals and your endorsements and sponsorships and things like that, that percentage can go way up, and it's negotiated between the agent and the player. But that can be around in the 20% category, maybe more, maybe less. So this is one reason why guys like LeBron, James Harden, etc. have agents, even though they're getting max contracts. But at the same time, those agents are handling business for them. Look at somebody like LeBron James. Now, I don't know LeBron. I've never had a conversation with the man, but I would bet you that LeBron James has a whole bunch of people around him in his life who handle everything other than what he needs to do, his main thing, which is playing basketball. Now, we know LeBron does a few other things. Like, you got TV shows and this and that and the third. But there are other people who handle it. It's not like he's doing all of it. When he has this barbershop show, plus his man Maverick, he's probably the one who's doing most of the background work for that show. Then LeBron comes in, sits down in the chair, and then they talk about it, and then he got to get back on that court. The story has been out that LeBron spends $1 million or whatever on his body every year. Who's he paying? He's paying for his food. I guarantee you he got somebody that cooks that food. He may cook every now and then, but somebody cooks his food. There's somebody who takes care of his body. He probably has somebody who he talks to about his mental game, like a coach or a therapist or something like that. He got people in place in every single area of his life for everything that he does not need to be doing, so he can focus on his main thing, which is doing his thing on that court, which is the reason why he could do everything else and the reason why he has the resources and the name that he has. And I can use him as an example, and everybody knows who I'm talking about without Googling, right? And you need to look at yourself the same way. Even though you may not be on LeBron's level as a player, maybe you're not as famous as LeBron, maybe you may never play in the NBA like LeBron, but you still need to look at yourself as a business. You as a professional athlete, you are a full-time business. Being a pro athlete is a full-time job. I'll talk about that in a separate piece of content. But this is the reason why you want an agent. Agent is one of the first pieces you can put around you. So if you don't have anybody around you right now, you're a one-man or one-woman organization, because you are a business. You as a person is a business. It costs money to be born. It costs money to die. That makes you a business. If there's money involved and people involved, it's business. All right. So for you to be born, somebody had to pay the doctor at the hospital, and when you die, somebody got to pay for the funeral. And in between, you got to pay for everything else. You got to pay for the device you listen to me on. You got to pay for your electricity. You pay for the bed you slept in last night. You pay for the food you got, the food you eat, the clothes you wear. Everything costs money. You are a business. Therefore, you need to stop doing every job in your business, and you need to focus on asking yourself this question: what's the most important job that I can put someone else in place to do for me right now that would give me the most leverage based on what I'm trying to do with my life at this time? If you're watching this or listening to this, however you're consuming this, and you want to play professional basketball, the most important job you need to focus on is finding someone who knows the landscape, knows what's going on in the business, knows who's who, knows what's what, has some juice that can get a phone call answered that you could not get answered if you were the one calling, but they can get answered because they're calling, or an email or a text. They know what you should expect, what things are going to be like, what looks good and what doesn't look good, what to say yes to, what to say no to, and can be working on your behalf while you're on that court doing your full-time job, working to get you your next job, working to get your game film, working to make sure you look good and that your profile is set up and that maybe you got an internet presence or whatever it is they can do to help you to best position yourself to do what you do on that court. That's why you need an agent. If you are an entrepreneur, a CEO, you want an assistant so they can handle all the emails coming in, so you don't have to respond to all your emails. So they can talk to, maybe if you got clients or customers that you don't need to be talking to them, but it's an issue that needs to be addressed by somebody, but it doesn't need to be you. If you got podcasts or radio shows or magazines want to interview you, and you're not going to say yes to all of them, but you need to evaluate each opportunity, you want a person who can handle that stuff. You tell them what you want, train them on how to do it, so that you don't have to put your CEO energy into doing things that an assistant should be doing. You shouldn't have to put CEO energy into assistant jobs. You understand? You as a basketball player, you don't need to be putting basketball player energy into agent jobs or manager jobs, whatever you want to title that person. So any agents out there who are listening to this, you can give your feedback and let me know if there's anything else about being an agent that, I know I spoke very broadly on this because I'm myself am not an agent, but I'm going to introduce y'all to some agents I probably already have. But these are the type of things that you need to be thinking about. Start thinking in terms of a CEO, in terms of a business owner, because even if you're not one, and maybe you don't never even plan on becoming one, like in title, you are CEO of your own life. And if you're trying to be a professional athlete, you got to understand you're going for a job that there are hundreds of thousands of players who are trying to get the same jobs that you're trying to get, and there are not hundreds of thousands of jobs. You got to beat those people out. And I think no matter how talented or skilled you are, I would like to believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that you have a better chance of beating everyone else out for those jobs when you are focused 100% on doing what you do best, which is playing on that court, rather than dividing your time and energy between playing and being an agent and being a manager and being basically your own personal assistant for your professional basketball career. Because again, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. That's just the way that it works. Now, with all that being said, anybody got any questions, concerns about anything that I said here, go ahead and post it in the comments if you're watching this on video. If you're listening on audio, you can find me and reach out to me, ask me anything, and I'll address it in a future piece of content. But if you have not yet gotten this book, The Overseas Basketball Blueprint, this is the book that will help you start your professional basketball career. I paid for the book to make it as easy as possible for you to make your decision to go get it. Go to balloverseas.com. The book is paid for. You take care of the shipping. balloverseas.com. I'll also give you an offer right there on that page for you to get the complimentary book, The Truth About Overseas Basketball Exposure Camps, for any of you thinking about going to camps. And any of you want more information on agents, trust me, I got a lot more coming. You wouldn't even believe what I got coming. Stay tuned. Work on your game. But yeah, balloverseas.com is to get the book. Work on your game. Dre all day.